going to explain for you lesson 10. The title of the lesson is Le Chatelier Principle, and this is the second lesson in topic 3. If you want to consider as topic 3 is the new chapter, so this is the second lesson, and it is chapter number 10 in your curriculum. Before we state the Le Chatelier Principle, I want to explain for you what is Le Chatelier Principle, and then later on you will be able to give me the definition. Okay, let's start with Le Chatelier Principle. Now, Le Chatelier Principle, I'll give you an example on it. Suppose that this is your house. Okay, this is your house. And this is your uncle's house. Okay, and there is equilibrium between your house and your uncle's house by means that all the food and stuff that is in your house is the same like the food and stuff in your uncle's house. Now, one friend of your father came to visit you and he brought for you a bag full of rice. Now, I say the equilibrium is disturbed. You know what is the meaning of disturbed? Disturbed means destroyed أو اخترب. Okay, the equilibrium اخترب. Why? Because you have one extra bag of rice. What will happen to make equilibrium again? So what we will do is we will divide half of this bag and we will send it to our uncle's house. Why? To make equilibrium again. Now, one friend of your uncle came to visit your uncle's house and he brought for them a bag of flour. Now, again, the equilibrium is disturbed. What will your uncle do? They will take half of the flour and they will send it to your house. So if you have extra, you send to your uncle's house, and if your uncle's house have extra, they will send to you. Supposedly you had visitors and you had no sugar. What will you do? You have no sugar. Your uncle will send for you. So your uncle will give you. Suppose your uncle had visitors and they had no tea. So what will happen? We will send for them. According to Le Chatelier, if an equilibrium was disturbed, and how do we disturb the equilibrium? By adding reactants or adding products, by removing reactants or removing products. What will happen to the reaction? Will it be disturbed forever? No. The reaction will either move backward or forward. Why? To make equilibrium again. Now, let's speak about it in terms of chemistry. If we say you have this reaction, okay, let me insert a page. If we have this reaction, we have A gas plus B gas. This is in equilibrium with C gas and D gas. Now pay attention. This is your house and this is your uncle's house. What happens if I add A? Where will the reaction go? What happens if I add B? What happens if I add C? What will happen if I add D? What will happen if I remove A? If I remove B? If I remove C? And if I remove D? Okay, now let's see. I added A. We have extra. This is our house and we have extra. What will we do? We will give to our uncle. So the reaction will move forward. What happens if we add B? B is also our house, so we have extra. We will give to our uncle forward. Okay, now if we add C, C is here. What happens if we add C? This is our uncle's house. They will give us, so the reaction will go backward. What will happen if we add D? Our uncle's house have extra D. This is extra in our uncle. They will give us, so the reaction will go backward. What happens if we remove A? We don't have A. Who will give us? Our uncle will send for us, so it will go backward. Remove B. Also, we don't have B. ناقص علينا B. Who will give us? Our uncle, so the reaction will go backward. What happens if we remove C? Our uncle do not have C. We will give them, so the reaction will move forward. What happens if we remove D? Remove D means our uncle do not have D, we will give them. So the rule is, we have extra, we give to our uncle. Our uncle have extra, they give us. We don't have, our uncle will send for us. Our uncle don't have, we will give them. Okay, so how do we disturb the equilibrium? Le Chatelier said, Le Chatelier said, if an equilibrium was disturbed, and how do we disturb the equilibrium? If an equilibrium was disturbed يعني اخترب. How do we disturb it? By adding reactants أو by adding products أو by removing reactants أو by removing products. What will happen? The reaction will either move forward or backward. So the reaction will shift forward or backward. Why? To make equilibrium again. So it will not be disturbed forever. Okay? طيب. إذن again I will repeat. We have extra, we give to our uncle. Our uncle have extra, they give us. We don't have, our uncle sends for us. Our uncle do not have, we give them. Okay? طيب. Now let's see another example. I want you to pay attention for this. If we have this reaction, A solid plus B gas is in equilibrium with C gas. Now the question is, what happens when we add A, when we add B, and when we add C? What happens when we remove A, when we remove B, and when we remove C? Okay, yeah. First of all, I want you to remember that whenever we have equilibrium, we cancel solids and liquids. Okay, دائما in equilibrium reactions, you should cancel solids, and if there is liquid, you should also cancel it. So what happens when we add A? A is a solid, so this has no effect. Whenever a substance is a solid, it will have no effect on the equilibrium. It will not move forward and it will not move backward. Why? Because A is solid. Now what happens if we add B? B بيتنا, what will happen? We will give بيت عمنا, so it will go forward. If we add C, C and بيت عمنا, what will happen? They will give us, so it will go backward. Now again, if I remove A is a solid, so it will have no effect. Okay, remove B. إحنا ما عندنا B. Our uncle will give us, so the reaction will go backward. Remove C. This is our uncle's house. ما عندهم C, so we will give them. Okay, so the rule is solids and liquids do not affect equilibrium. Who affects the equilibrium? طبعا الgas will acquiesce. Now let me ask you a question. Do you think this reaction is homogeneous or heterogeneous? You remember from the last lesson? Okay, now this one have different states, solid and gas, so the reaction is heterogeneous. طيب, if you were asked to write the KEQ expression for this reaction, I want to write the equilibrium constant. Remember, we write products over reactants. Products is C, over reactant is B, and we do not write A because A is a solid. Okay, طيب, now let's study another factor. Okay, now let's look here. What happens when we add PCl5? What happens when we add PCl3 and Cl2? So what about heat? What happens if we increase the temperature of the reaction or if we decrease the temperature of the reaction? Now I will be explaining for you the change in, okay, changing temperature. Now, previously we explained the changing amount of reactants and amounts of products. Now we will see changing temperature. هلا, in terms of temperature, we have two cases, case number 1 and case number 2. In case number 1, the reaction is endothermic. شو يعني endothermic? Endothermic means absorbs heat. And what is the other type? Exothermic. What is the meaning of exothermic? Release heat. In endothermic reaction, we have the reactants and we have the products. Where do I write the heat? طبعا if it absorbs heat, this means the heat is in the reactant side. طيب هون heat is released, so I will say reactants give products plus heat. Now what happens if I increase the temperature? يعني زودنا الهيت. هذا بيتنا عندنا heat زيادة, the reaction will go forward. طب what happens if I decrease the temperature? نقصت الحرارة, so this one is less. Where will the reaction go? Backward. Same like before. We have extra, we give to our uncle. Our uncle have extra, they give us. Okay. Now here, what happens if we increase the temperature? Now be careful. The heat here عند بيت عمنا. زودنا الحرارة هون. بيت عمنا have extra. So what will they do? They will give us. طيب what happens if we decrease the temperature? نقصنا الحرارة. إحنا بيت عمي they don't have temperature. We will give them, so the reaction will go forward. إذا for changing temperature, you have to know if the reaction is endothermic or if the reaction is exothermic. Now let's do practice on this. You have this reaction. Now my first question for you, is the reaction homogeneous or heterogeneous, and why? Question number 2, write KEQ expression. Question number 3, what happens if I add PCl5? Number 4, what happens if I add PCl3? What happens if I add Cl2? What happens if I remove PCl5? What happens if I remove PCl3? What happens if I remove Cl2? هذا كله adding and removing reactants and products. Now, what happens if I increase the temperature? And what happens if I decrease the temperature? Okay, هلا, in each case of these from 3 to 10, you will have to tell me the reaction moves forward or the reaction moves backward. Okay, now I want you to pause the video to answer the questions and then check your answers. Okay, guys, I want to tell you something. Very common mistake students do in the exam. They write PCl3 plus Cl2. This is wrong because they see here plus, they put here plus. This is not plus. This is times PCl2. Okay, be careful. This one have product. This one is multiply. And other students, they write for me here heat. طبعا heat is not a reactant and it's not a product. You should not mention it. Okay, we write only reactants and products. Type. Now, when we add PCl5, where will the reaction go? PCl5 is, this is your house and this is your uncle. Okay, you have extra, we will give to our uncle. PCl3, now this one is our uncle's house. They will give us. Add Cl2, also Cl2 is our uncle. Now, remove PCl5. We don't have PCl5. We have less PCl5. Who will give us? Our uncle. Remove PCl3. This is our uncle, so we will give them. Cl2 also, this is our uncle. ما عندهم Cl2, sorry, we will give them. Now, what happens when I increase the temperature? Notice that this reaction is endothermic because the heat is in the reactant. Okay, زودنا التمبريتشر. وين بيروح الرياكشن؟ هذه ببيتنا. زيادة we will give to our uncle. نقصنا temperature. We don't have temperature. Our uncle will give us. Okay, so far you know the effect of adding and removing reactants and products, and you know the effect of temperature. Now I want to give you something new, which is the effect of changing volume. Okay, now changing volume. هلا, you know very well that volume means size or space. Okay, طب هلا, what happens when I increase the volume? The reaction will move towards more moles of gas. If I decrease the volume, the reaction will move towards less moles of gas. Now let me give you an example. If you have this reaction, 2H2 gas plus O2 gas in equilibrium with 2H2O gas. Now, زودنا الفوليوم. I want to know if the reaction moves forward ولا the reaction moves backward. Okay, I will see the moles of gases طبعا. How many moles do I have here? Okay, here I have 2 moles, and here nothing means 1, and here I have 2. So in the reactant side, I have 2 and 1. This is 3 moles. Now on the product side, I have 2 moles. Okay, when I increase the volume راح أمشي باتجاه more moles. هيك ولا هيك? From 3 to 2 or from 2 to 3? More moles is this way, 2 to 3. So the reaction will move backward. طيب when I decrease the volume the reaction will move باتجاه less moles. كيف اتجاه less moles؟ هيك ولا هيك؟ طبعا forward. Okay, so be careful. In case of changing volume, you have to check the moles. More volume باتجاه more moles, which makes sense لأنه more volume they need more space to sit in. Less volume they need less moles because less moles need less space. Okay, now the last change I will do for you today is changing pressure. طبعا changing pressure is the opposite of changing volume. If I increase the pressure, this is the same like decreasing volume. So it will go forward. If I decrease the pressure, this is the same like increasing volume because pressure and volume are inversely proportional. Okay, done. One last thing I would like to add to you is if you added a catalyst, what will happen? When we add catalyst, usually what you know is that the catalyst will speed up the reaction. It will make the reaction faster. But be careful now. In case of equilibrium, we have 2 reactions. So which one will be faster? The forward reaction or the backward reaction? Actually, both of them will be faster. So the catalyst will make the reaction faster forward and then backward. So what is the result? Okay, it will move faster forward and backward. كأنه سيارة مشيت لقدام ردت لورا. What is the result? No effect. Okay, if a reaction is in one direction, reactants to products, this will be faster. But here, both of them will be faster. So the forward will be faster and then the reverse will be faster. يعني we will move forward and backward. So what is the result? No effect. Okay, so according to Le Chatelier, what will disturb the equilibrium? Let me show you the things that we've discussed so far. أول شيء, I can disturb the equilibrium by adding reactants and products. How? By removing reactants and removing products. So this is number 1. Okay, number 2, I can disturb the equilibrium by changing temperature. اتفقنا انه for changing temperature I need to know where is the heat. It's in my house or my uncle's house, and then I will decide where will the reaction move. Now the third thing that disturbs equilibrium is changing volume. And we said in changing volume, more moles, less volume, less moles. Okay, now changing pressure also disturbs the equilibrium. More pressure, less volume, less pressure, more volume. Okay. Type. Now the last thing, catalyst, we said it has no effect on equilibrium because it will speed up the forward and the backward reaction, so the result will be no effect. Okay, so let me give you a practice. Okay, in my practice, I'm going to give you 2A gas plus B solid is in equilibrium with C gas and plus heat. Now, is this reaction أول إشي homogeneous or heterogeneous? طبعا heterogeneous. Why? Because we have solid and we have gas. Now, is this reaction endothermic or exothermic? طبعا it is exothermic. Why? Because heat is in the products. طيب. هلا, if I say for you write KEQ expression, who will be cancelled? طبعا B will be cancelled. So we write products over reactants. C over A. Be careful, this 2 will become square. Okay? Now, what happens when we add A? What happens when we add B? What happens when we add C? What happens when we remove A? What happens when we remove B? What happens when we remove C? Okay, now this is the first effect. Now, what happens if we increase the temperature and if we decrease the temperature? What happens if we increase the volume, if we decrease the volume? If we increase the pressure, if we decrease the pressure, and what happens if we add catalyst. Okay, now pause the video and answer these questions before I give you the answers. Okay, add A, the reaction will move. This is my house, forward. Add B, تذكروا no effect because B is solid. Adding C, this is my uncle, backward. Okay, remove A, I don't have A, my uncle will give me. Remove B, no effect لأنها solid. Okay, remove C, my uncle do not have C, we will give them. إذا خلصنا أول set. هلأ نيجي للتمبريتشر. طبعا الهيت is in my uncle's house. زودنا الهيت. My uncle have extra heat, they will give us. نقصنا التمبريتشر, my uncle do not have, we will give them. هلا زودنا الفوليوم بنروح باتجاه more moles. Okay, let's see. How many moles do we have here? 2. طبعا we don't count the solid. Here 1. بدنا نمشي باتجاه more moles. Is this direction more moles or this direction? طبعا from 1 to 2. This is more moles. Backward. less volume بنروح باتجاه less moles. كيف less moles؟ forward. طيب هلا زودنا البريشر نفس كأنه نقصنا الفوليوم. نشوف من هون. forward. نقصنا البريشر نفس زودنا الفوليوم. بنشوف من هون. backward. add catalyst, no effect. Okay, so these are all the factors that will disturb the equilibrium. Now let's do practice. The explanation of the lesson is finished. Okay, now what happens if we heat the mixture, decrease the pressure, removing? I want you to tell me in all these cases the reaction will move forward or the reaction will move backward. Now before we start, can you tell me if this reaction is endothermic or exothermic? طبعا delta H is positive, this means the reaction is endothermic. And when the reaction is endothermic, do we write the heat in the reactants or in the products? طبعا in the reactants, so heat will be here. Okay, is this reaction homogeneous or heterogeneous? طبعا homogeneous because all of them are gases. طيب في حدا لازم يتكنسل in this reaction solid أو liquid؟ لا طبعا because only we have gases. يلا pause the video, answer and then check your answers with what I'm going to write. Okay, now after I decided the reaction will move forward or backward, I want you to tell me what is the color. Now heating the mixture, heat is here, forward, so the color is brown. Whenever I go forward, the color is brown. Whenever I go backward, the gas is colorless. So the color here is brown. Now decreasing pressure, increasing volume, بروحوا باتجاه المور moles, so the reaction will move forward, the color will be brown. Removing NO2, بيت عمي ما عندهم NO2, we will give them. The color will be brown. Removing N2O4, أنا ما عندي N2O4, بيت عمي بيعطوني. So it will be colorless. Colorless means without color. Decreasing the volume, روحوا باتجاه less moles. Less moles is backward, so colorless. Increasing the pressure. Increasing the pressure is the same like decreasing the volume, which means backward, it is also colorless. Adding NO2, we add here NO2, it will go this way, so also it is colorless. Adding N2O4 to the mixture, this is me, I have extra, I will give to my uncle, so the color will be brown. Increasing the volume, more moles forward, the color will be brown. Okay, so first of all, you decide the direction and then you choose the color. Another question? Okay. Heating ammonium chloride. From the word heating and H4Cl, what can you conclude? That the heat is here. Okay. Now, I want to know which change will increase HCl. Now, if I want to increase HCl, means I want the reaction to move this way. In this way, this will decrease and these two will increase. Okay. Then I want to know what should I do with the temperature and what should I do with the pressure. Now, if I want the reaction to move forward, what do I do with the temperature? أزود ولا أنقص؟ طبعا I want to give to my uncle means I should have extra, so I should increase the temperature. So the choice is either A or B. طب what should I do with the pressure? Now let's see the moles. طبعا هون I have 0 moles, here I have 2 moles, and I want the reaction to move باتجاه from 0 to 2. This is more moles, which means more volume, which means less pressure. So I will decrease the pressure and I will increase the temperature. Okay, next. Okay, which of the following changes would increase the amount of products in the above system? If I want to increase the amount of products, this means I want the reaction to move forward. If I want the reaction to move forward, let's see the effect of each one. Increasing pressure. Now, increasing pressure is decreasing volume. Decreasing volume will go باتجاه less moles. Now, let's see how many moles do I have in the reactants. I have 1 plus 1, 2. 1 plus 1, 2. So I cannot tell who have less moles because here I have 2 moles and here I have 2 moles. So less moles means no effect. If you find out that the moles are equal in both sides, this means that it will have no effect. Now, increasing volume, also it should go باتجاه more moles. But I don't have more moles, so I will say also no effect. And you know that adding catalysts also have no effect. And I see, oh, this is my house, I will give to my uncle, so the reaction will move forward. So this is the right answer. Which of the following changes will decrease the amount of products? Now, whenever I say decrease the amount of products, means I need the reaction to go backward. Increasing pressure, same, have no effect. Increasing volume, no effect. Adding catalyst, no effect. Adding CO2, this is my uncle's house, so it will go back. Now, I want you to pay attention. If you increase the pressure, volume, or decrease the volume, or increase pressure, or decrease pressure, and you find out that the moles of gaseous reactants equal to the moles of gaseous products, this means that all these four have no effect. Okay, they will have no effect on the equilibrium position. Okay, now another question. For the following equilibrium system, when Z is increased, I added Z, this is increased. What will happen? The reaction will move this way. So these two will be more, and this one will be less. Okay, so first of all, the reaction will shift to the left, and the concentration of Y will be more. So left and increase. Okay, another question. Now this one says as the temperature increases, what will happen? The reaction will move this way and K will decrease, and the temperature will decrease, the K will increase. So this is the K and temperature inversely proportional. Okay, now I want you to pause the video and to answer this question, take a few minutes and then check your answers. Now delta H is negative, this means the reaction is exothermic and the heat is in the product side. Okay. Okay, please check your answers. Okay, and now let's do one more question. I think we have 3 more questions and we will be done. Okay, yeah, let's look at this reaction. First question, can you tell me if this reaction is homogeneous or heterogeneous? Okay, now this reaction is heterogeneous because we have solids and we have gas. We have gas and we have solid. And as I told you before, whenever you see solid, cancel it so that you will not get confused. Write the equilibrium expression. KEQ will be equal to P over R. Now the products are CO2 and also this one will be cancelled, so only CO2. And the reactants are CO. Is the reaction homogeneous or heterogeneous? طبعا we said it is heterogeneous. Why? Because we have solid and we have gas. We have 2 different states. Explain what effect each of the following changes will have in the equilibrium position. Adding more FeO. Be careful, FeO is a solid, so we will say it will have no effect. Adding Fe3O4, also it is a solid, so it will have no effect. Increasing the concentration of CO2, this is our uncle's house, they have extra, they will give us, so the reaction will go backward. So if it says shifts to the left, this direction is the left. Heck, right, heck, left. Okay, طيب. Now another question, take 2 minutes to answer this question. Okay, another question. Consider the equilibrium system if the concentration of SO3 is increased. طبعا when we add this one, the reaction will go this way. So these 2 will be more and this one will be less because I'm making more of this. So SO2 will increase and O2 will increase. Okay, time. Now this is the last question. Take 2 minutes to answer this question. This question is important. Write the equilibrium expression. First of all, is this homogeneous or heterogeneous? طبعا it is homogeneous because all of them are gases. So nothing will be cancelled. KEQ is equal to P over R, which is equal to CH3OH over CO times H2 square. Now the concentration of CH3OH at equilibrium, how can we find it? From this rule. K is given here. K is 2.50 times 10 power 2, which is equal to CH3OH. This is required. Over and CO is 0.02 and H2 is 0.5 square. And then you calculate this one. Now calculate KEQ for this reaction. Now is there a relation between this one and this one? Yes. What is the relation? This one reversed, give me this one. So the reaction is reversed. So what happens to K? K will be 1 over K. Reverse means these 2 will be up and this one will be down. The reactants will be products and products will be reactants. So you take the reciprocal of the AK, 1.2.5 times 10 power 2. Now write the equilibrium expression for this reaction. KEQ will be P over R. The product is CH3OH square over CO square times H2 power 4. If they say for you calculate it in numbers, then you can say KEQ is equal to, what did we do with this reaction to give us this reaction? We multiplied by 2, so coefficients become powers. So the new KEQ will be this one, 2.5 10 power 2 square. Okay, so if you multiply by a number, you make it power. If you reverse the reaction, you take the reciprocal of K or 1 over K. Okay, now this is the last thing you need to know in lesson 10. Hopefully the video was beneficial for you.